Let's bring Ashley back in. Ashley, you had two discussions with the president along with Mike back in March, and the second one, as you've said, if people are just waking up, second one where you and Michael and also Jeffrey Goldberg went in to the White House to talk to the president. Now, this was obviously post-Signalgate. I'm curious, what did the president have to say about Pete Hegseth and whether his confidence had been shaken at all by the events of the last month?
Sure. And I should just say it was two conversations and actually one late night, 1:28 a.m. butt dial from the president. But two times we spoke with him. And on Hegseth, it was interesting. We asked, right, this is the moment where Hegseth has rotated out his chief of staff. He's fired 3 top advisors. There's news reports of his wife, who is not a Defense Department official, joining him in official meetings. A story that he had installed a makeup room in the Pentagon. And what the president said was, look, I had to talk with him. I did it in a positive way, but I had to talk with him, and I think he's going to get his act together.
All right, Pablo.
Yeah, Joe and Ashley, I've been trying to find the through line through the poll numbers and also Ashley's reporting. And it seems to me that the thing the Democrats might want to point out is that America feels like the Cleveland Browns right now. There are a lot of the hallmarks of how an abysmal franchise operates. One of them is, of course, the win-loss record, which would be the economy. That obviously still to come, how bad those numbers can get. But the other hallmark of a dysfunctional franchise in any industry, of course, is how the number one guy doesn't want to take ownership for the decisions of the people that work directly for him. That is another big warning sign. And historically, of course, this administration, you wonder, OK, how long is the tolerance going to be when you're playing defense around your own offense? And so, Ashley, just how does he talk about whether it's the courts, whether it's certainly Signalgate, but the courts in particular? Can you describe the gap that he's trying to put himself in that's separate and apart, actually, from the people directly working for him when it comes to the judiciary?
So the courts was actually fascinating because in both conversations, we asked him, because he and his vice president have sort of hinted at this, would you defy a judicial ruling? And both times the president was adamant that you have to listen to the Supreme Court. You cannot defy the Supreme Court. And he sort of, in the first conversation, almost as a digression, not only did he say that, but then he said, and you know what, even those justices appointed by Democrats, I like them. They're good people. I see them at the State of the Union and other things I do, and I really have a lot of respect for them. But some of this came in the context of his experience with the courts, and this is what he said to us. He said, look, I win on appeal. So he has confidence right now that a lot of these court cases, if and when they get kicked up to the Supreme Court, will rule in his favor. And my sort of question, which is unknowable, is will he still have such respect for the court and for the justices, and particularly the justices who he did not appoint, who were appointed by Democratic presidents, if there comes a moment where they offer their final word against President Trump and his administration?
Right. But you say, Ashley, and he certainly said it inside the White House several times, that when asked, the president said that he would follow the ruling of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, absolutely. He was very clear on that in two separate conversations, separated by about a month.
So Jim VandeHei, I'm curious, what insights do you gain out of the president's interview with The Atlantic, sitting down with Ashley and Jeffrey and Michael and some of the things that you've heard here? Again, there's what the president does as far as policy goes. There's what we've heard over the past couple weeks that the president may be adjusting a bit. I wonder, any indication on whether he's this may be the first of many sort of different tacks towards the media?
I don't think the president really ever adjusts. Like, there's always these stories over 8 years that he's kind of shifting. And he's always a man in full. Like, he is who he is. He's probably one of the least introspective people you're going to talk to. He's like, in his mind, a man of action. And I think the man of action thing, like, gets a lot of people in his base fired up. It also can create a hell of a lot of confusion internally and externally, which he's dealing with now. I mean, listen, to his credit, like, he does sit down with a lot of reporters. And I think every reporter who's ever sat down with him has had the same experience that Ashley does, which is, like, he will engage. All the mean tweets and all the crap that you see on X or social media, you see very little of that in private. He actually will engage you, unlike a lot of presidents. He'll ask you questions. His love language is a little bit of confrontation, so he's happy to have it. He really believes what he's doing. And I actually think the most interesting quote was that quote about Hegseth saying he better get his act together. For him even to admit that his act needs to get together is something he usually doesn't do. And he is aware that the Defense Department right now is a mess, and that is a problem for him. And that's ultimately when you lose a job around Trump. If you start to make him look bad and he can do it on his terms and doesn't feel like he's capitulating to the press, he'll make a move. And I think Hegseth is clearly on a clear warning that if you don't get your act together, you're out, which probably should be the way you do it if you're losing all of your staff and you have a lot of a controversy at what is kind of an important department. The Department of Defense kind of keeps us safe, because you do want sane, smart leadership there.
Important, yeah.
That's kind of important. That's that Midwest understatement by Jim Vanda. Yeah, you look at the quote again where he's talking about that we just put up, where he's talking about his conversation with Pete Hegseth, because I think he's going to get it together. I had a talk with him, a positive talk, but I had a talk with him. Yeah, you doesn't take a whole lot to read between the lines there. He expects him to get his act together, and soon. The Atlantic's Ashley Parker, thank you so much. Her new wide-ranging interview with President Trump is now available to read online. And Jim